This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by nope.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the nope and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This question is from a listener named Veronica, and she asks, how do you factor in your athlete's readiness score to make training decisions? For example, a readiness score typically covers questions to athletes with a ranking of 0 to 5. How'd you sleep? How stressed do you feel? What's your energy level? Let's say an athlete has a score of 1 or 2. How would you change that day of training?
Wow.
I love that question.
What a great question. I'll answer by saying that it doesn't create a decision, it creates a conversation. Or you could say it creates a decision to have a conversation with that athlete. But it doesn't, we're not able to look at a readiness score and say that, yeah, this athlete shouldn't go today. Because here's what we kind of forget with this metric, and it's an important metric to have. It gives us the subjective, but we also need to compare that with the objective, right? So if we have objective data, as in heart rate variability, which we've done a podcast on before, heart rate fluctuations, illnesses, and we're seeing a pattern from the objective with a low readiness score, well, then we might say, hey, we need to adapt your training today. But what we forget in this is that the score of, how'd you sleep? How was your energy? What's your energy level like? What was your stress today? What we forget is that, athletes have stressful days, and them getting to the gym, them practicing that day, that's their sandbox. That's where they get to play. That's where they get to let loose and get all the stress out. If they had poor sleep, hey, let's touch on why you're getting poor sleep. But also, you going to work out can help to, I don't want to say fully offset, but can offset a little bit of that lack of sleep that you got that previous night. How stressed do you feel? Did you just have a stressful day? Did you have, was a coach on your back? Was there family stuff going on? Is there work stuff going on? And this has all stressed you out. So you're how stressed am I? Well, 0 to 5, and typically it's not 5 is the max and 0's little. It's more of 5 is I'm relaxed, I'm not stressed, and 0 is I'm very stressed.
Yeah.
I'm ready to lose it. And they put a 1 in there. Okay, what brought that on? And is training going to be helpful that your readiness score would actually improve after you train because you got to go and release that stress? So it brings on a conversation to have with that athlete. Hey, your readiness score is looking a little low today. I just want to check in. Do you feel good to go? What's going on? What came up in your day? What is it? Has it been consistent? Is it consistently a 1 to 2? Well, let's talk on behavior modification. But it brings on a conversation, not a decision to sit a player or completely adapt their training. And gosh, we've seen it so many times where an athlete comes in and their readiness scores a 1 or a 2, and they PR that day. And part of it's because, again, it's their release. It's their time to yes, I get to do the thing I've been looking forward to all day. When we start taking that away, that could very much impact that player's overall health. So we do have to pay attention to it. We have to understand a low readiness score is not a good thing. We want people to be recovering and coming in ready to perform. But we also need to realize that it's part of the equation that brings on a conversation, and we shouldn't pull something away from someone that they feel it is my purpose to train, to work out, to be an athlete. We shouldn't pull that from them unless we've had a conversation or have objective data showing as to why we need to adapt it, right? Because then it's hey, your readiness score is a 2 today, so we're going to take your percentages on your lifts down from 85% to 60%. And if you have objective data to do that with the subjective, that could be a very wise coaching decision. At the same time, they might hit a new PR because they're frustrated and like
Yeah.
ready to work out and ready to move, and we're looking forward to it. And now it can almost, for some athletes, it can make them feel more of like, oh, another thing
Hmm.
for the day that needs to change.
Yeah.
And so again, it brings on a conversation.
Yeah, I think too, and not to paint like the opposite picture, but just to, give another point of view or just perspective, I don't know. But an athlete having the awareness of what the readiness score is and what that means, that's part of the conversation. Like
Yeah.
them understanding, like, yeah, I'm stressed. Yeah, there are things going on, but that's not going to impact my training, or I'm willing to train through it. Like them being able to have that dialogue and that conversation with their coach, because it sounds like Veronica's like a coach in this circumstance. That's really healthy and really good for the athlete to gain that awareness. But I also want to kind of pose the opposite of if an athlete is going into training and the training is what's making them stressed, not in the sense of like the body stress of leave like obviously when you work out that is a intentional stress,
Hmm.
but if they're coming in with this mindset of like, oh, I don't want to train, I'm sick of this, I don't want to be here, I think that's a different low readiness
Hmm.
scale or score versus like someone who's eager to be there but just has a lower readiness
Yeah.
score. You know what I mean? Like I think there is a part of does your athlete just not want to be there and that's why their readiness score is low, or is it more of like other life circumstances have created this lower score, but can they work through that, and can both athletes work through that?
Yeah.
Or but really they sorry, really the answer to the question is they both need to have a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It brings on the conversation. But to that point, that athlete that they're overtrained,
Hmm.
right? They're getting intentional stressors from the training and they're not adapting well. And their objective data is starting to plummet with it. They're getting slower. They're having more ailments come up. Their numbers are going down percentage on their lifts. Their GPS speed isn't to where it once was. And the classic, oh, we need to do more, we need to do more. Like, no, that athlete probably needs to do less.
Hmm.
They're overtrained. I remember working with one of the special operators, and they said, wow, I can run a lot faster when I'm not super sore all the time. And it was like, wow, what a concept
Yeah.
of like when
Shocker.
you're recovered and not going, oh man, my hamstrings are so sore that you can actually move
Yeah.
and get from point A to point B at a faster clip. But it's this idea that like more is better.
Hmm.
Where sometimes less is more. And we talked about this on a previous podcast. It doesn't mean overall doing less. Like we can keep that all in mentality, but let's put that all in into some stillness, into some recovery methods, into community, into sleep. Like let's use that, decrease your external load, your training a bit, and increase these strategies to improve your internal load or your strategies to better adapt and decrease your internal load.
Hmm.
So we can use that all in mentality. But to your point, we can have an athlete that has a low readiness score because of the stressors of the day and they're pumped to get into the gym or out on the field or court or ice and it's like they're released and it's going to be helpful. There's the other end of it where the readiness score is super low because they're not adapting well and they're overtrained.
Hmm.
But in either case, that score says, let's have the conversation,
Yeah.
right? But that was a beautiful point of bringing it up because it shows the objective data that we can look at to see which way should we go.
Hmm.
Like, hey, I've been tracking your readiness score for the past week, seeing your percentages are going down, your speed is slower. What's going on?
Hmm.
Like, I'm not calling you out as an athlete by what's going on, but like genuinely, like, how's life?
How are
How
you?
how are you
Yeah.
right now? Like, are you taking on too much? And I'm not going to sit here and go to your head coach or overseer and say, hey, yeah, they're just not doing well with their program. Be like, coach, they're doing the work. They're an incredible athlete. They've got a little too much on their plate right now. And
Hmm.
if we can look for strategies to decrease that a little bit, I think it can help your athlete go a long way.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches are on board with that. A lot of coaches may not be.
Hmm.
And hey, there's coaches that are champions and there's coaches that keep circling the wagon.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if I don't know if Veronica's a coach like at what level. You know,
Mhm.
she might be at a local gym with athletes who are of all variety of ages. She may be a high school coach, she may be a college coach, I have no idea. But I will say, like, as a coach, caring about the personhood of your athletes is so important. And I do think that the readiness score can give a little bit into that, but really it's about you as a coach caring genuinely about how that person is, not just how their body is and how their body can perform in the training stimulus that is required of them, but like how is their spirit? How is their mind doing? Where are they at in other areas of their life? I think as coaches, I think coaches need to do a better job at knowing those things
Yeah.
in order to better allow their athletes to one recover, but also to train for them better, like to program for them better, but also just like for the quality life of that human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, it's if you have the ability to be with a team or with a player for a prolonged period of time, like the readiness score is helpful, but also in that time frame, you should start to notice your players. You start to notice their affect. You start to know when they come into the gym or the training facility that they're ready to go
Mhm.
today, or like, hey, their behavior's a little off today. They're a little lackadaisical.
Yeah.
Like these players look fine. This one, I'm just gonna go over and just say, hey, come here quick.
Hmm.
Like, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Like, honestly, how are you doing? And that conversation will then lead to the decisions.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I've had a rough day, but like, I need this.
Hmm.
Okay, we're not gonna change a thing. I'm gonna keep my eyes on you, and we'll talk afterwards. But like, let's go. Like, yeah, I'm having a really tough time. I don't feel good. I don't feel like I have that like push today. Okay, you know what we're gonna do today? Today's gonna be a day that you say, hey, I did something rather than nothing.
Hmm.
We're gonna tweak your percentages. We're gonna decrease the amount of the volume or how fast you're going. Like we're going to decrease something to adapt to what your system is doing. But it goes back to the conversation. And the more that you are able to spend time with your athletes, you're able to start to pick this stuff up
Hmm.
and have that conversation before you ever even look at a score. A
Hmm.
score is nice to have for data tracking and to make decisions, but so is just noticing and caring for
Yeah.
your team or for your players.
Well, it's like, I don't want to say it's like being married or it's like having children or being a good friend, but like as a person, you if you're a coach, you're about other people.
Yeah.
Like you can't be a coach and be selfish. There's got to be a little bit of you that's like
Hmm.
about other people. And the reality is when you're married, when you have kids, when you're a really good friend, like you notice these things. You
Yeah.
notice how that other person operates. You know kind of what makes them tick, right?
Mhm.
And it's the same thing for your athletes. Get to know them. And as an athlete, there's nothing better than when a coach really cares about you as a whole. Like
Right.
that, I feel like I didn't have that too much growing up. And I imagine that if I had a coach that treated me like my youth minister treated me, I would have excelled even more in
Oh
sports
yeah.
because I knew that they cared about me as a whole. Like my youth minister really like cared about who I was, that they knew when there were challenges going on, you know, at home with my family. They knew if someone in my family was sick. They knew about my foot injury and stuff like that. I imagine if I had a coach that like asked those questions, that I felt close enough to talk with them about it and that they felt like they cared enough about me to ask those questions, I would have performed better as an athlete because of the stronger like relationship that we would have had. And so
Yeah.
I just think as coaches, that's something that we could all do better, is really caring. I already said this, but like caring for the wholeness of the person.
Yeah. And that goes to every field, right?
Hmm.
In the book, Hope Not Nope, we touched on like the fundamental aspect of healthcare that's missing is the care,
The
like
care.
the caring of like taking that little extra step to go out of the way that's not putting a timer in someone's face and saying, you got 7 minutes, tell me what's going on, ready,
Hmm.
go. But like sitting down with a person, hey, when you start feeling this, what else was happening in life around this and being able to make more informed decisions. And the last point I want to make with this too for Veronica is if you're able to be with a team long term, and you're able to track readiness scores too, that becomes helpful to you as a coach because there are certain times in the season that the strain on the team is going to be higher than at other times. And I think of like training camp, whether it's like college football or the NFL, like the strain is high
Mhm.
and the readiness scores are probably going to be dropping off as the weeks go on in that. I think of baseball and like the dog days of summer in August, like readiness scores are going to drop. So now as a coach, you can kind of be prepared that as a whole, the group average is probably going to be decreasing when there's a lot of strain. And when there's a lot of strain, well, now you can adapt your training to that strain and go, in baseball, well, August is not PR month in the gym.
Mhm.
Like we might need to use more strategies that help aid in recovery because the toll of the long season is now on us.
Mhm.
In training camp, I might go, yeah, your running score is low, you're sore, but this is to prep you for the season.
Mhm.
So like, sorry, but this is what comes with that territory
Yeah.
and having that amount of strain. So it allows you to have those conversations and say, hey, this isn't abnormal.
Mhm.
Like this is okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hope story time.
Hope story
All
time.
right, I'm going to share my hope story. It's a quick one, and I think it's kind of funny. So we were doing fly sprints in the road because it was flatter and made sense to do it.
Mhm.
And it was just funny because we're doing it, and a older individual was coming down the road with like a wheelbarrow and dumping some
Mhm.
landscaping stuff out into the weeds, and just looked over at us and just made some comment of like, well, I'd race you, but you'd have to put me in the wheelbarrow and wheel me back afterwards. And it was funny. And the reason I share it is because I don't know like, if it's the person, I don't know if it's the age, like I don't know when it gets lost and then when it happens again, but it's like we shared hope stories before of going to restaurants and like a kid being there and just acknowledging like
Mhm.
another human being, like, hi. And this older individual was the same thing. It was like he just wanted to acknowledge that we were in the same area
Yeah.
as each other and came up with something funny
Mhm.
to say that then opened conversation for a short period of time. And I was just like, well, that's amazing. And not to make a generalized statement, which follows that as a generalized statement, but there's always exceptions. Um, but I'm like, if that was a teenager, they probably wouldn't have
Yeah.
they probably would have ducked their head or someone that's just not willing to acknowledge another human. They probably just duck their head away,
Grab their phone
wheelbarrow,
away.
grab their phone and
Yeah.
get out of the way. And I think it was just really cool and a reminder to us of like, hey, just acknowledge
Yeah.
a a human that you're around
Mhm.
for even a short period of time. It doesn't have to be a funny joke with a wheelbarrow. It can just be like, hi,
Yeah.
have a good day.
I love saying hi to strangers. I think it's so funny to see their face, especially when you know that they were gonna duck and not say hello, and then to see their face go, "Oh, hi." Like I think it's so like I love doing that, but I think it's also hilarious to like kind of throw people off their game of like they were predicting that you're just gonna walk down the road and not acknowledge that the other person is 10 feet away from them.
Right.
And then it's like, psych, I'm gonna say hi to you. Like I just think it's funny to kind of shake people up with like genuine kindness.
Yeah, and it's simple and some people might get annoyed of like you don't have to say hi to me,
Yeah.
but I think more times than not people that could be the highlight of their day
Yeah.
of like maybe they're having a really rough day, they're feeling isolated and another human said hi to them. And
Hmm.
that made a big change for that individual. So don't forget those small things and don't get into these awkward things where you're just staring at each other and nobody says anything.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're looking at each other. Someone just raise a hand and go, hello,
Yeah. It's
hi.
so true.
Like, you don't have to have that in-depth conversation with the person. If you do,
Mhm.
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
that's the next level. But like, just acknowledging is,
Yeah. I remember growing up, there were times where I grew up in a small town, and there were times where I would be at a public location that wasn't school,
mm,
and I would see someone from school who I knew, but I wasn't necessarily like their first friend. It was like a couple people removed. Like they were good friends with my best friend, but I didn't necessarily hang out with their friend
mm,
group. And I just remember thinking like, "Oh, someone from school. I bet they're gonna say hi." And they like put their head down and walk past. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, we're teenagers. Of course that would happen.
Right.
But at the time, I remember being like, I don't like that person. And I kind of held a grudge
Yeah.
against that person for a long time. And now that I'm older, I'm like, bro, Brandy, you could have just said hi first. It's
Right.
like, why didn't you just say hi first? And I think that it's really challenged me to just be the person that says hi first in situations like that for the most part. Sometimes I'm not, but I also know there is that like awkwardness that people do feel, especially if you like kind of know the person but you don't really know the person and then you almost second guess like does that person remember who I am? And
Yeah.
then by that point you're already past them.
Right.
But just say hi. It's fine. It's not
Yeah.
gonna hurt anyone to say hello.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for listening, Veronica. Thank you for your question. Have a great week. And remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.